Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I am sharing with you my version of a Remembrance Poppy. Now, as you can see, I have them both in red and in purple, and I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the purple one today as part of a very exciting project that I am doing for Duston Community Centre as part of their Remembrance display. Now, before we get started, make sure that you've hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet patterns or tutorials again. I'm going to ask you to be sending me some of the poppies that you create so that I can attach them to a frame that we're getting hold of to create a remembrance dedication to all the animals that have served alongside a giant poppy cascade that's already used for the Duston Community Centre. If you head to the link in the description box, I'll also pop it in the top right hand corner for you to find the address where you can send your poppies. And the most important feature is you will notice that I have not woven in the centre coloured strands, because this is what's going to be used to attach all the poppies to the frame. So let's talk about the materials that I've used to create these poppies. Now you can see that I have a different shade of purple. This was the first shade that I used. You'll also notice that this video is marked as sponsored. That's because I've purchased this yarn using my staff discount at Hobbycraft. So the WI yarn, or the Women's Institute Premium Acrylic yarn, is available at Hobbycraft exclusively. And it comes, and they do have 3 different shades of purple and lilac. There's one in between these two, which I think I've left at home. Now this one has been made using the shade Dark Lilac. And in the video today, I'm going to be using this shade, which is Bright Lilac. And there is a deep purple as well. Now this is all a double knit weight, so a size 3 yarn. And I'm using their black premium acrylic for the center of this poppy as well. You really don't need a lot of materials to make this. And it is worked in 4 rounds, and we're going to be using lots of different stitches to create this extra wide width because we have quite a large frame to cover. So the finished size of this poppy using double knit, and I'm going to be using a 4mm crochet hook today, is 3 inches, which is about 7.5 centimeters. Got my trusty tulip hook that I'm using, as I said, in a 4mm crochet hook. You're also going to need a darning needle and some scissors to fasten off those ends. So gather your materials and let's get started. Now shade A, the first shade that we're using, is going to be black, and that's going to create the center. I'm going to try and show you this using my black yarn. If it doesn't show up very well on camera, I will remake it using the darker purple so you can see the stitches. If you know how to do a magic circle, you can of course work into a magic circle. I'm going to be making a chain 4 and joining that to create a ring as a bit more of a beginner friendly version. Just going to start by making a slip knot by bringing the working yarn around the front to create a loop, pinch it, drop the yarn behind, pull it through to create the slip knot, and place that onto my hook. And should be able to pull on that yarn to create the slip knot and bring it up to the height of the hook. We're then going to begin by making a chain of 4. So we yarn over the hook and bring it through 4 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can just about see some light coming through those chains that we've made. And we're going to be slip stitching to the first one that we made. And we're literally just inserting our hook. There's our slip knot. We're just going underneath that first chain, picking up one of those loops. We're going to yarn over, pull it through, and straight through the loop on our hook. Now this does create a ring. It's a bit hard to see in this colour, but if I pull it apart, you can see that there is a ring in the middle. And we're going to work over this tail at the same time to help bring it together once we've worked this round. We're going to start by making a chain of 1, which is just yarning over and pulling through. This chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to work into the center, not into that hole we created by joining, but that center ring there. So we insert the hook into the center with everything on top of the loop, including our tail. We yarn over, bring a loop up, so we have 2 loops on our hook, we yarn over and pull through 2. So we're going to be making US single crochets, UK double crochets, and we're going to be making 10 of those all worked into that ring, and this was our first. If you do struggle to find your first stitches, I would recommend grabbing a lockable stitch marker and marking that first stitch that you made. It's going to be just behind the loop on your hook, and I'm just going to mark that first stitch so I know where it is when we come back to join the end of this round. So that's our first stitch done. We're going to work back into the center again, and we're working over our tail still, just into that big center, working another UK double, US single crochet. Bring the loop up, then we yarn over and pull through 2, so that's number 2, and we're doing 10 of those in total. That's 3. We're reinserting into the center each time. 4, 5, 6, 7. If you're running out of room, you can just pull your stitches around. 8, 9, and number 10. Once you have worked your 10 stitches, can you even see those? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which is the first one that we marked. We're going to join to that first stitch, but to avoid seeing any of the colour change, I would recommend changing to colour B, which in this case is going to be this pale or bright lilac, before we finish that last stitch. So I'm just going to take my hook out and pull back, inserting my hook back into that loop that popped up. And I'm going to work that final stitch once again. So we insert, bring our loop up, and we're going to pause there, ready to change colour. Now to change colour, very simply, we're going to pick up our new colour, place it over the hook with the tail at the back, and bring it through those 2 loops to complete that last stitch. I'm going to pull on that working yarn that's still attached to the ball, get rid of that tail, and then I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch that we made that I marked with my stitch marker by inserting through those loops, pulling through and straight through the loop on my hook. I can then remove that stitch marker, and we have completed round 1. If you've worked into the middle of the ring, you will have a hole like this. If you find your black tail, you should be able to pull on it and it will tighten the ring so that it closes if you've worked over it. If you haven't worked over it, I'm going to show you how to work around the center to close that ring. So at the end of round 1, you should have a total stitch count of 10 US single crochets, 10 UK doubles. Going into round 2, we're going to start by working a chain of 3. So we yarn over and pull through 3 times. That's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to work back into that same stitch that we joined into, working a further US double, UK treble crochet into that same stitch. So it's not where this purple one is that we change colour into, we're going into that hole that we joined into. So we yarn over, insert our hook into that stitch, we yarn over, bring our loop up. You should have 3 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over and just pull through those first 2 loops before we yarn over and pull through the next 2. We're going to work 2 US double crochets, 2 UK treble crochets into each stitch around. So we're going to double our stitch count from 10 to 20. So we yarn over the hook, find our next stitch. I know that that is mine because it's next to where I've just worked. We're going to insert our hook, making sure that we've picked up both loops of that stitch, we yarn over and bring our loop up. So we have those 3 loops on our hook. We yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to work a second US double, UK treble into that same stitch. We start by yarning over the hook. We insert, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to repeat that the whole way round, so we should end up back at the bottom of our chain with that final purple loop there. So we're going into the next stitch to work a further 2 treble crochets. Don't be afraid to pull your work about to find where you're working. So we yarn over, insert, bring our loop up, pull through 2, pull through 2, and we're working 2 into each stitch around. So continue to work all the way around, working your 2 treble crochets, 2 US doubles, and I'll meet you at the end of round 2. So at the end of round 2, you should have 20 US doubles, UK trebles. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. We're going to join to the top of that chain 3 that we started our round with. So 1, 2, and 3. I'm pushing my hook through the middle of the chain, aiming to pick up 2 loops of the chain ideally, and we slip stitch by yarning over, pull through, and straight through the loop on our hook to join to create the first part of our poppy. We're then going to make a chain of 2, so we yarn over, pull through 2 times, and we're going to work into that same stitch as our chain 2, so where we've joined, and we're going to work a US double, a UK treble crochet into that same stitch. So we're yarning over, we insert and bring our loop up, pull through 2 and pull through 2. Into our next stitch, so right next to where we've worked, we're going to work a US treble crochet, which is the same as a UK double treble. So that means we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook twice, so it looks like we've got 3 loops on our hook before we even start. We're going to insert our hook into that next stitch, we yarn over and bring up a loop, and we should now have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops 3 times. So we yarn over, pull through 2, now we only have 3 loops. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2 again. We now have just 2 loops remaining. We're going to yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So this is a lovely tall stitch, and it helps us create the width we need for our poppy. Into our next stitch, we're going to increase, so we're going to work 2 double trebles or 2 US treble crochets. We wrap the yarn around the hook twice. We're inserting into the next stitch, so we've worked here, we're going into the next one. We yarn over, bring our 4th loop up, we yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over again, pull through the next 2, yarn over again, and pull through the last 2. Now we're going to work a second double treble, or a US treble crochet into that same stitch. So we're yarning over the hook twice, we insert, we yarn over, bring our 4th loop up, we pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. We're going to repeat this pattern of working 1 double treble, which is a US treble, followed by working 2 trebles, 2 UK double trebles into the next stitch. So into the next stitch we're working 1 double treble, same as a US treble. So we wrap the yarn around the hook twice, we insert into the next stitch. Because we've already worked into this one, we're going into the next one. We yarn over to bring that 4th loop up before yarning over and pulling through 3 times. We're going to work 2 into the next, so we yarn over twice before we insert, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and we're working a second into that stitch. We're going to repeat that again for a second time across the next 2 stitches. So we're working 1 UK double treble, 1 US treble into the next, before working 2 double trebles, 2 US trebles into the next. That was 1, and this is 2. So we should be looking a little bit like this, and we're going to close this petal off by working into the next stitch. We're going to work 1 UK treble crochet, the same as a US double crochet, into the next. So we just yarn over once this time, we insert into the next, bring up a 3rd loop. This time we're just yarning over and pull through twice. So that was once and twice. We're then going to make a chain of 2. So we yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, before slip stitching to the base of that, well, the same stitch we just worked into. So we're inserting our hook into the base of where that last stitch was worked. We yarn over and pull through and straight through the loop on your hook. You can wiggle it about to make that a bit tighter. You should have your first complete petal. Just like a bit of a fancy eye at the moment. To start the next petal, we're going to repeat everything we've just done. So we start by inserting our hook into the next stitch and slip stitching, so which is just a yarning over, pull through, straight through the loop on your hook. We then make our chain of 2, and we're going to work a US double crochet, a US treble into that same stitch as our chain 2. So we yarn over the hook once, we insert, bring our loop up. We should have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over for a second time and pull through 2. We're then going to work our US trebles, the same as a UK double treble, around in that same pattern. So we're going to work 1 into the next stitch and 2 into the one after that. We wrap the yarn around the hook twice, ready to insert into that next stitch. We yarn over and bring up our 4th loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 3 times. So we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Into the next stitch we're going to work 2. Remember to wrap that yarn around the hook twice. Bring your 4th loop up and then we pull through 2 3 times. We're working a second US treble, UK double treble into that same stitch we've just worked into. We're going to repeat working 1 double treble, 1 US treble, before working 2 into the next, all the way around to our last stitch. So we're wrapping the yarn around the hook twice and working 1 into the first stitch, before working 2 into the next. That's the second one, is it? Yeah. So we're going to repeat that all the way around, working 1 double treble, 1 US treble, and then 2 into the next. You're going to repeat that all the way around to this final stitch, and that's where I'm going to meet you. Just working my final of those pairs into that stitch, and we're back to our final stitch, and into that last stitch we're working a US double, the same as a UK treble, into that last stitch. So we just yarn over once, we insert, bring our loop up, we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to make our chain of 2 before we slip stitch back into that same stitch that we just worked that last one, and then we are going to finish by slip stitching into that space, the next space effectively, at the base of the beginning chain 2. In theory, we have a beautiful, simple poppy, but as you can see, when we work the next round, it allows those edges to curl in ever so slightly and firm up the edge of our pattern. Don't worry, this time we're making nice short stitches and we're just doing US single crochets and UK doubles. So for round 4, we're going into that chain 2 space, so the space we made. We're going to work around that chain 2 we made at the beginning of round 3. So we're inserting our hook into that chain 2 space. We're yarning over and bringing our loop up. We yarn over and pull through 2, so that's our first one. And we're going to work a second US single, UK double crochet into that same chain 2 space. We're then going to work into the top of each stitch across back to the edge of this petal. So we've worked into this space, and at the top of our stitch you can see where our stitch is. So there's the post and it's just here. We're inserting, making sure we pick up both of those loops. Yarn over to bring your loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to work into the top of each stitch around, and this last one becomes a bit tricky to find, so I'm going to meet you around there. We're simply working 1 US single crochet, 1 UK double crochet into the top of each stitch around. When you reach the top of the double, it's really easy to skip that stitch, but we don't really want to. So that's the top, the last tall stitch, and then we have our US double, UK treble at the edge. I'm just going to work 1 more single crochet in there. Then I'm rotating a bit because we're going to work around that chain 2 again. So in between the last stitch at the edge of our petal, we're inserting our hook around that chain 2 and working 2 single crochets. So that's 1. Insert again. I'm going to fold that other petal out of the way because it gets in the way to work that final one. We're going to slip stitch to the base of the next chain 2, which is here. So we just insert, bring our loop up and straight through the loop on our hook. Then we're rotating for the next petal to work around that next chain 2, which is going to feel a little bit tighter. So you should be curving in nicely around that first petal, and you can see that it just makes that edge nice and neat and firm. So once you've done that slip stitch into the base of the chain 2, we're going to insert our hook around the chain 2 to work a US single and a UK double crochet. So that's 1, and we're going to work a second one around that same chain 2. And then we need to find the top of that first stitch, which will just be next to where you've worked. And we're inserting our hook, if I cover that one up, into this one, working a US single and a UK double. We're going to work around, working into the top of each stitch around, working 1 US single, 1 UK double. Working into my last of the taller stitches, and I'm back to the poppy edge, so I just need to find that stitch before the chain 2. I'm inserting, working that stitch in there, and then we can rotate to work around that final chain 2, and we're going to insert underneath it to work 2 stitches. For our final join, we are going to go into any of these spaces, but that's the right one there at the base of the beginning chain 2. We're just inserting our hook and slip stitching. I'm going to make, that actually completes our poppy. To fasten off, we're going to make a chain of 1, and I'm going to grab my scissors and fasten off. I'm going to use my hook to bring it through and just pull on that to tighten that knot that chain has created. I'm going to use my hook just to bring my hook through to bring this tail to the back of the project so that all my tails are on the same side, and all that's left to do is to weave these ends in. So we're going to need to grab our darning needle, and I'm going to start with this stitch I've just brought through, placing that onto my needle. And I'm simply going to weave that through the back loops of these stitches. I'm going to do it 3 times in different directions, working backwards and forwards. So you can't really see that needle other than where it's coming out. On the other side, or the right side of our project, I'm just going to bring that through. So that's one way. Don't want it overly tight. Then I'm going to come back through the same way. So that's 2. Not pulling it overly tight. And then for a final time, I'm going to come back through again. I'm going to split this little yarn here if I can. There we go. And then that end is ready to trim. That end is buried. And then we're going to repeat that for the other purple end. Now, if you've made a magic circle and you worked with your beginning magic circle, you don't need to do this step. You can simply just tie your 2 black ends. But if, like me, you've made that magic circle, we need to find the one that pulls it tight, which is this one. So I'm going to place that onto my darning needle. And to help close that centre, you see how there's still a hole? We are going to work through these stitches somehow. I do have a light on here, so I can see what I'm doing, believe it or not. Probably clearer than it comes up on camera. And I'm just weaving my way around all of these stitches, doing a couple at a time and rotating to come back around. And then that last one, oh, there we are. Once you've done that last one, when you pull, that hole should disappear, and then we can tightly tie it to the other black tail. I'm going to do it 3 times. That's 2 and 3. So the reason that I've tied it and I'm leaving these ends on is because this is obviously going to go on display and it stops the center coming undone. But there we have another poppy made. Now I need about 500 of these, so I would really appreciate it if you would like to pop a couple of these into the post to me. I've got the address over on my website of where you need to send them. Now this display is going live in November 2025. So if you're watching this in any other year, I probably don't need any more, thank you. But if you are watching this prior to October 2025, please drop a couple of these in the post for me. I would greatly appreciate it, and then I will share with you as the project progresses how many we've received, and I'll update you right here on the channel as well. Thank you so much for joining me for today's tutorial. Go ahead and make all your beautiful Remembrance Day poppies so that you too can share and remember those who fought for our freedom.